Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual AI podcast. Today I've got a beautiful soul with me. Her name is Becky Cohen. She's the founder of the Conscious Revolution, a human design expert and transformational coach. She helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs and change makers unlock their unique gifts and align with their design to live and work authentically, blending spiritual insights with strategic wisdom. Welcome to the podcast, Becky.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Beautiful. Now, first of all, I know that we're definitely going to get into the human design side of things because it's made a massive difference in the way that I run my business. But first, what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask and start and ask, who is Becky? Where does Becky come from? And kind of what has happened in your life to kind of bring you to this point? So I know it's a big question, but kind of just, who's Becky? Where does Becky come from?
Okay, so I'll try and make it as concise as possible, but I came from a corporate background. So I was a corporate high flyer for many years, 15 plus years, always miserable and always the one who was in the spiritual closet. I was very spiritual from a young age. And it was always that chasing success or what success looks like from the outside, the expectations, what people were expecting me to be. So for me, I was always great at manifestation and always great with every spiritual tool that I ever wanted to get my hands on from a young age. But no one really understood me. And I guess we grew up in the 80s, so there wasn't a lot available to us at that time. So I grew up Jewish, so it was everything against my religion. I was kind of a bit on the outside there. And then I figured out I was gay and I was hiding that. So I'm hiding my spirituality, my sexuality, figuring out I've got ADHD, but not getting diagnosed, another mask, hiding everything about myself and just cruising through life in terms of, what looks successful on the outside, probably no one knew what was really going on the inside. And along the way, I guess there was an identity piece. It was really lost myself. And it's really interesting. So I was working for a lot of very toxic corporate masculine environments within project management and IT. And I always thought, if I ever knew what it was that I was here and meant to do, I would just go and do it. And I always thought once the clarity comes, I would leave this workplace. And it wasn't it wasn't until I really went and did the deep personal development work and went inwards to have that transformation to realize it wasn't an external job, that it was actually internal, that everything became clear. And, once I was allowing my gifts to come through instead of trying to block them and following my intuition, following the breadcrumbs, doing that journey of all the limiting beliefs and the fears and bringing it to the conscious level, could I actually step into my role as a transformation leader and help people find their purpose as well?
Yeah, your story is one of pretty much every coach that you talk to, every healer you talk to, every person in a space of helping others, right? We've had to go through all those things for life to actually set us up so that we can step into our truth. And over the last few days, I've had a number of podcast interviews with guests, and they all say the same thing. It is an inner journey. It's not outside. It's not, looking out there. There's a lot of things out there. And yes, there is value in finding, your coaches and leaders and content out there. But essentially the journey is within. And you've definitely arrived at that point as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everyone has a slightly different journey on how they get there, but definitely it's similar things that we go through. And honestly, it's usually that person that you stumble upon, whether it's a coach, a mentor, that can help guide you to wake you up, and they come at the right time when you're open to hearing it. So there's always I feel like there's a guide along the way that does help you get there to go internally as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, growing up, going through this, we kind of had to navigate a lot of it ourselves. I was definitely not exposed to a lot of coaches and spiritual teachers, and as you said, there's a lot more now than there was back then for us.
Mm.
So we had to do a lot of the work ourselves.
Mm.
Whereas now there is so many of us that have done the work that can actually make it easier for other people to go through the process. So, and that's one of the things with my book as well. It's like what we went through over 3 decades, or longer, we can literally help you manifest or work through and process in your life literally within months.
Mm.
So yeah, it's really important to understand that even though it is an inner journey, the coaches that are out there, people like Becky and myself who help and serve, we can actually help you do this much quicker than what we actually had to go through. So yeah, so a little bit jealous there, but but we had to get to this point, right?
100%.
So I want to dive right in. So let's get into human design.
Sure.
So obviously you do human design, but how do you use human design in your work? Like, what is the main focus for you? How do you, yeah, sorry, go for
Yeah,
it.
go for it. So, no, I was going to say, because I'm a manifesting generator, and if anybody out there who your audience know about manifesting generators, we're multi-passionate, and human design, like you said, it can be honed in on a certain aspect, and it can really complement whatever you're doing, whether you're a business coach or you're looking to do it through your own branding for your business. It can be used for a million different things. For me, when
Mm,
I first discovered it, I was really focusing in on life purpose for people to help them discover their purpose and walk away from the 9 to 5 and build a purpose-driven business. So where I first got into human design, I think it's interesting that it's like with any modality out there that it finds you at the most perfect moment in your life, and then you realize that you're supposed to run with it. You can see a million
yeah,
modalities. So human design came knocking on my door quite a few years before, and I looked and was like, wow, this is complicated. Like, put it away. And I think a lot of people first step into that go, whoa, like I don't know what to do with this. Um,
mm,
and then it came knocking again after I started doing my purpose, the life purpose coaching side of my business. And I could immediately see, number one, had I had this tool prior to trying to find my purpose and trying to find my identity, wow, what a revolution that would have been. But also then
yeah,
how to quickly take and run with that to help my other clients. So I just started everything that I was learning, I was kind of saying, "Hey, I'm experimenting with this new tool. Can we just see with the current clients that I've got to see how you resonate with it?" And they loved it. They were
yeah,
absolutely lapping it up as well. So then, of course, I do the business side, and I do a lot of the transformational work on limiting beliefs. So the more I learned, the more I started integrating parts of human design that blended beautifully with the work that I was doing as
mm,
well. So it's been a journey for 5 years. But and as I learn more, I just keep implementing more because I honestly believe I'll never finish learning with human design as well. There's so much to it. So
yeah, there's so many layers, and you're very right when you say that it can literally change the way you do run your business, run your life, essentially, with a
mm,
moment when you tap into who you are, who you were born. You were born with a blueprint, right? The minute you
mhm,
tap into that blueprint, everything shifts and changes. And, you know, I won't go into the story, but for me as well, in the beginning of the year, I was doing things very differently, in the way that the business coaches out there tell you to do things. And
mhm,
then I had this moment and I kind of went in, and human design helped me to kind of figure out who I was and showed me that the way I was running my business is not sustainable. I need to be in creation mode all the time. I'm a manifester, so for me, I'm creating all the time. There's always stuff coming through, right? I'm always
mhm,
switched on, and long-term programs don't work for me. I
yeah,
get bored. I've got to, if my soul says today, create something for manifesting, and that's what's going to come through. I'm going to create something for manifesting. Tomorrow or a week, 2 weeks from now, it's going to tell me, listen here, you've got to tap into self-worth. Let's run with that, right? So I've got a very different way of running my business, and I've now shaped it to what fits me, and it's made a massive difference. So
game
yeah.
changer, right? It's a massive game changer. I mean, even it's interesting too because even when you find out your type, people will kind of box you into the way that that particular type is meant to work. But there's so
Mm,
many caveats beyond that, and every time somebody hears that information, they are digesting it slightly different to a manifestor to manifestor and how that
Mm.
works. Even though there's, there's themes, but everyone, if you get them to repeat back what that means for them, they'll have a completely different aha moment as well.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. But the way that it's delivered will speak to somebody's soul. And it's like, I get all the time, it feels like you're talking to my soul. And I say it is absolutely a guidebook on how your soul is meant to operate in this human, of you're designed to, operate as this human in this lifetime. And
Yeah.
and what I love about that too is, meetings, because, with manifesting, obviously you guys, there's only 9% of you on the planet. So there's very small amount of you guys.
Mm.
And so to be understood and how you operate is going to be very different to a manifesting generator when there's, you know, 34% of us on the planet. We're the second most dominant on the planet. But
Mm.
again, I have a look at some of the ways that manifesting generators work, and they are all over socials. They love building these communities and consistent. But what I've learned is it doesn't light me up, and we're supposed to do things that satisfy us. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, when people are telling you, you're a manifesting generator, I don't see why you can't be consistent on there. You've got all this energy, and it's like, but I don't love it. That's
No.
not what brings me satisfaction. And to break
Yeah.
away from that mold and do things differently is all about then having the permission within your human design to understand you don't have to do anything out there the way
Mm.
that people are telling you that you have to be successful, or how to run as a coach or anything like that. It gives you a full permission slip to step away and
Brilliant.
do it your way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to put it in a different way, if this didn't land for anybody, what Becky just said, which you said perfectly, by the way, but something that came up for me is like, I'm a Leo,
Hmm.
and quite often people will say Leos are like out there, extravagant, glitz and glamour, and I am nothing like that. So I think it boils down to awareness, right? So this is my jam, right? It's it's awareness. So with the human design, you still have to have that awareness about yourself. So
Hmm.
even though that we're giving you the map, human design gives you the map, you still have to take it and go, yes, no, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, does it make me a bad person? No, it doesn't. It means that you're honoring yourself. So you have to go through this process. And that's the inner work, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And what's interesting also about human design is that it can actually show you the the journey inwards on the things that you've agreed to this, contract this lifetime, or the things you want to experience, the limiting beliefs, the fears, all those things that would
Mm.
guide you to actually opening up to the unconscious side of yourself, or some of the things playing out. Obviously, like, okay, we accepted that, but each person is going to then have it play out in a different way as well.
Yeah.
Right. So even that can give you a key or a clue to the things that, once you overcome that, the transformation becomes the biggest wisdom and guidance in your life and what you're here to do. But even that, when you're trying to struggle with what's going on, to try and go within to get the answers, when a lot of the time what used to annoy me is like, you have all the answers within you, Becky, you just need to go within to find them. And it is
Yeah.
true, but you need a map sometimes to get there, or somebody to guide you, because we've all got blinders when it comes to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So you talk about the awakening cycles.
Hmm.
So what are they, and how can they, knowing what those cycles are, how can they support us in this inner work?
Okay, that's a great question. So basically, if you're into astrology, you'll probably know, and even if you know, I'll explain a little bit on the surface. So there's an astrological point, because human design is a blend of a whole bunch of modalities, and astrology is part of it.
Yeah.
So even if your audience, if you can think back to when you're about to hit your 30s, there's something called Saturn return, the first Saturn
Mm.
return. Now, had I wish I knew this before I went through my Saturn return, it would have been a lot easier. So,
Yeah.
so Saturn return is this phase I call the shake up. And what happens, and I felt like, and sometimes you say things and you don't even realize that you're saying it. It's like when you look back in hindsight, it's like, I didn't really become a woman till I was in my 30s, but it's on hindsight, you thought you were one before. And it's because the shake up and what it's doing, usually you'll have a crisis in your life, and it can be multiple things. You can lose your job, the relationships that you had would be shaken up, houses taken away, illness, whatever that looks like, is to shake you up out of where you were into what you're becoming. And it's
Mm,
usually not pleasant. So Saturn's usually the ruler of discipline, and it's actually trying to, it's almost like what I used to say is the universe either tickles you with a feather or punches you in the face. So usually you get a warning before, and you
you
get
do,
the
yeah.
slight, and if you keep ignoring it, eventually, bang, you get something that happens to course
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's generally happening to us just before we hit 30s. But in human design, what happens is that shake up, well, there's a theme for your 30s, and every
Mm,
single one of us will have a different theme that's playing out. So once you look into your chart, you can actually see what your Saturn placements are and what that looks like for you, what that lesson is that you're meant to take into transforming into your 30s. And then just before, between 30 and 42, we've got the wake up phase, what I call it. It's when Uranus does a 180 in the sky. So it's a opposition. That's the astrology thing. And that's really shaking us or waking us up into that second act. So that's usually when people start questioning, who the hell am I now? What the hell am I doing? I don't belong
mm,
here. Why am I chasing success? I want to do something meaningful with my life. So that's the wake up, and it's asking us more to step into purpose. And how I feel it's like almost like looking for your North Star. So
mm,
there's a whole bunch of things that are going on again. So that's what's happening astrologically. So everyone's going to go through this in their own way. Some people it's going to be subtle, some people it's going to be a train wreck. Depends how
mm.
much inner work you've been doing along the way. So these
Yeah.
things, if I knew then what it was, I know the transition would have been a lot easier because I would have known what was coming as well. And it's kind of, you can prepare yourself, and everything blows up in your life in that time, how to deal with it.
Well, you could also, you could say, yes, I would have been prepared for it, but essentially the thing would have still happened and it still would
100%.
have knocked you sideways. So it's going to, it's, you might know that between, 30 and 40, this is going to happen, it's going to blindside you because there's a lesson, there's an opportunity for growth there,
100%.
right?
100%.
Yeah.
But when I was about to turn 30, I went and bought a house. I put it down on, I took a big risk. I put everything towards this house. The
Mm.
GFC hit. I lost my job.
Right.
Had to build the house. I had to also pay rent because I was waiting for the house to be built. I was so stressed out. I went into complete burnout. I was quite ill from it. I lost
Yeah.
a relationship. I got the whole whammy, the whole gamut of it, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it was hardcore a shake
Yeah.
up. And
Yeah.
then it was kind of like even my friends started, disappearing because I was a hot mess, or I was also not feeling sorry for myself, but I couldn't pull myself out of it. I didn't know who I was in that time, and I didn't know
Mm.
how to be around people. So it's like I had to rebuild my entire life. Had I known that people, and we didn't talk about it back then, everyone was going through something, but I usually ask women, do you remember where you were at this time? What happened in your life? They'll be like, oh my God, it was, and then they can go back and recall.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it's like if we knew this Saturn return was coming, even though yes, I would have had to go through what I did because you can't preempt what that's going to be, I would have understood it as a rite of passage into where I was going and had to
Yeah.
go through that flow. Maybe I would have gotten into the inner work a lot earlier. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I would have probably looked for help back then instead of suffered in silence and trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
So
you probably would have said, instead of, riding the wave of the misery, you would
yeah,
have gone and gotten off the board, gotten out the ocean and gone, okay, I see what's happened there. Now
yeah.
let me just process this and just get over the shit, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
there's themes of each decade that happen. So that was the first couple that you can probably look through. But even Chiron return at 50s is really your biggest wound is probably going to come back up to heal again. So and you're probably
Mm,
looking, oh, I thought I did the work here and before, but it's getting down like with an onion. It's probably going to come as that last bolt, but it's really stepping you into that leader with that wisdom of how you can really help others transform through that as well. So
mm,
there's a few of the themes, but then human design gives you probably the the I guess it is. It's that theme of what's going to come up, or what lesson you need to learn, or what that wound would look like, for
mm.
instance, in Chiron. So yeah.
Yeah. So Chiron, that would be like cycle 3, right? So what comes after that?
So then you go into the 60s, which is your second Saturn return, which usually hits just before your 60s. So it's it's kind of a bit easier than the first one, let's put it that way. But then again, what I call that one was like um, really, it's like that the call up, like when you're being called into leaving a legacy, you're living really life on your own terms. You don't really care anymore about what society wants and all of those things, but it's time to really get clear for you about what you've been leading people through in the legacy that you want to leave behind and what you want to be known for and living it on
Mm.
your terms basically. And
Yeah.
you go through 70, so then you go through your second Uranus 180 opposition, and 90s if it just kind of,
Continues. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because if as you're talking, I'm like, it's if you look at anybody's life, even if they don't understand human design, you know that there are those cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in their 60s live life on their terms.
Yes.
They're not worried about what other people say about them anymore. So if you can highlight these cycles, and if you can work through them in your earlier years, then when you get to the cycles in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and on, you're going to, like you were saying, a Saturn return, your second one comes around again. By that time, if you had dealt with whatever it was you were meant to deal with in your 30s, then the 60s is going to be a breeze, right? Because you would have
Mm-hmm.
had a look at whatever that thing was for you.
Mm-hmm. And even if you don't do the work, for instance, in the 30s, like I didn't until a bit later,
Yeah.
but before you get to the 40s, I started doing a lot of personal development in that time. So the one that hit the 40s, it was actually that's when I walked away from my corporate job. That's when I started my business. I could hear the calling. And
Yeah.
I could hear the calling, and I was like, right, it's time. And so, had I not done the work, probably that punch in the face again would have hit me and knocked me over even more. It's like, when are you going to wake up to do something with this? Um,
Yeah.
so that it is kind of setting the scene, because a lot of people don't want to do the work, right? And it just, so every time else they're looking at it, it's like, life is just so hard. Why am I keep going through the same things? And looking externally versus internally. And that's really these cycles are trying to help you move into, I feel all of it's like awakening, but also purpose changes through the decades. And it's trying to help you with anchoring your purpose as you move along as well.
Yeah, and you're very right when you say like purpose changes. So we go through, I haven't met a lot of people who have, when they were born, they said they were going to be this thing and then they become that thing, right? Most of us go through these iterations of and try different things to actually then find that purpose, right? Find that thread that is our life theme, our purpose. How would you, like, I don't know if you do this, but how would you help your clients find their purpose? Like, do you have certain steps? Do you have something you can give to the listeners how to find their purpose?
So what's really interesting about purpose, I'll say a few things. Like obviously, like understanding yourself and your human design gives you quite a few clues into just how you're type, what it's here to operate and do. For instance, as a manifestor, you're a visionary. You're here to initiate all these new ideas and bring them forth into the world. So that's already gives you a clue as your type on just a little snippet of what you could be doing. There's so many ways you could do that, right?
Yeah.
As a manifesting generator, I'm here to do work that I love, have relationships I love. Simple. That's actually a nice one, isn't it? But most of us, the thing is, the conditioning underneath us is taking us in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So with all of that, I'm trying to make sure everyone else originally people pleasing, making sure that they're okay, that they're doing the things that they love, that they're in purpose and all of those things rather than for myself. And so I'm hustling harder and doing
Mm.
things because they want me to be something versus what I want to be, for instance. So even though it's quite simple at the top, there's so many layers to it, but it's really good to know if we kept it that simple, all I have to do is love what I do and love the people I'm around. Hey, I've fulfilled a purpose, but then drilling down. So that's the first step I would say. Human design can really help with your type. And I do have a free resource that I can give your listeners about how to get a free chart and also to deep dive into their charts and to kind of
Yeah.
hear in about that. So I'm happy to give you that. Um, the
Mm.
second thing I always say is nothing is a coincidence for what you've been through. So everything that has happened is your wisdom and the guidance for what you're meant to do and give to the people and to transform their lives. So whether it be that you own your own business, whether you're in a purpose, aligning to a community that is purpose driven and you're doing things as a passion project or what have you, it doesn't really matter whether it's a paid job or not. The thing that you've been through, or some of your hardest things, is going to be what people are looking at you for to help them through to the other side as well.
Yeah.
And generally, people have all these shards of themselves, like all these different stories, but they just don't know how to put the puzzle pieces together, which is currently what I do with my transformation programs, is to have a look at all those pieces of who you were, who you're becoming, what's keep holding you back in that unconscious level from getting there,
Mm.
and then getting you through to the other side where you get to put the pieces together with me, and then you figure it out on the other side of what you're designed to be this lifetime.
Yeah, beautiful. So before we dive into, I want to dive into the types so that people can get a gist, like you just
Mhm.
give them that nugget. That process of finding your purpose, I actually go into depth into my book as well, which is really nice. I take them through this whole process. So if you haven't got the book yet, go and grab it. Becky, I will absolutely have the link for your free resources in the description for the listeners as well. But so let's give the listeners the very first step, that first little nugget. So you've mentioned briefly about the manifester and the manifesting generator. I think just let's start from scratch, just run through each one of the types for us really quickly and just give us that little bit of gold so people can go, okay, yep, that makes sense. Okay, now I can
Okay.
take this.
Okay, sure. So, so there are 5 types. Let's start with that. The most common at the moment on the planet, there's generators and manifesting generators. They make up 70% of the population. So
Hmm.
just so you know, manifestors are mainly generator, but also part manifest. It's that bridge. But we'll start with the generator. Generators are here to do, like I was saying, work that you love. And what I call the generator is like the Energizer Bunny. It's like that they've got all this
Yeah.
energy to go and go and go. But really, you're here to do work that you love. And if you're listening to this thinking you're a generator, thinking, I'm so tired all the time, I don't know, I just feel burnt out. What happens is when you fight against doing what you love and what you're
Yeah.
here to do, what we call in human design, you start going into what is a not self theme instead of being in alignment with your type, and that you're going to come into a lot of frustration. And the
Yeah.
more you fight against what you're meant to be doing and following the things that don't light you up and bring you joy in life, you're going to feel more frustration. And that is your signal to burnout, is going to be
Yeah.
your signal to actually burning out. So for generators, what you want to do to know that you're in alignment is to feel satisfaction in everything that you do. That's alignment. That's the higher frequency of a generator.
Yeah.
So that's the first type. Manifestors. Do you want to speak to manifestors or do you want me to do it?
No, you can do that. Thank you.
So manifestors are about 9% of the population. What we say is there's energetic and non-energetic beings. So if you're a generator, manifesting generator, you have all this energy to create and build. Manifestors are not one of those. So they need ample rest. They are not here for the 9 to 5. They are not here to go, 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 go.
Nope.
And they do have this starter initiating energy. They're here because they're the visionaries of the world. They're here to create, and they manifest brilliantly when they're here in that starter energy as well. So, by the way, types doesn't mean you can't manifest if you're not a manifestor or a manifesting generator. Just want to.
Yeah, it's not. No, manifesting and being a manifester in human
It's
design is two very different
it's
things.
two
Yeah.
very different things. But an interesting connection is that I think that sometimes when we spoke about manifesting, it did come from some of that manifestor energy on how you're meant to manifest, which will only work for a manifestor, not the rest of the population, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting as well. Another topic. Yeah, so because of that, they need ample rest and they need their space to be able to be in their creative genius as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time manifestors will look like the lone wolf, but they need to learn how to go into their bubble for creation. And that for them is also when they're in alignment means they need to feel peace. Inner peace, I say, but also their environment to be able to create, they need peace.
Yeah.
If you disrupt a manifesto when they're working and they're in that creative vision, that's when they start to fall out of alignment or being around too many people, and that will come out as their not self-theme as anger. So,
Mm.
so that's also a way that if they're not in alignment, the more that they feel angry at something is also the time when they need to step away and take a break, recharge as well, or they will burn out. I
Yeah.
really believe this is where everyone's burning out slightly differently if they're not watching the signals as well based on their
Yeah.
type.
Mm.
Manifesting generators is a hybrid, but we're basically what I call time benders, because like we come in and we are the fastest moving on the planet. So a lot of the times we'll skip steps, but what I see us is actually almost like the improver. So it's like something's been created, the generator builds what they love because they want to get their hands dirty and get involved. We come in as the fastest people who are moving to go, you know what, this is brilliant, but I think we can make it better and improve the process and cut time down. So that's how it says. So we're part inventor and part visionary, but we do have this building energy, and we're here to do what we love as well. Same with
Mm.
us, frustration and the satisfaction as well as the same thing. The only layer I'll add is that when you get because we're part. Another thing is the impatience, because we're so quick. If we feel people can't keep up, frustration and impatience can kind of go hand in hand. And that's how we can also burn out, is if we just become too impatient, keep moving. And otherwise you have to go back and you skip steps and you have to work the process again. So that can also burn us out as well.
Yeah.
Projectors, there's about 20% on the planet. You guys also don't have the same energy as the builders of these planets. So you guys are meant to work differently in that you're here to lead and guide people with your wisdom. So if we were in a workplace and people understood the energies of a projector in particular, projectors feel like they have to keep up with the Joneses, that they have to, to be successful and to be a guide or a lead. The conditioning is always to keep up in that respect and try to go at the pace of generators and manifesting generators, and they burn out, and they're
Mm.
not meant to work like that. I don't believe that, they are different, so they, as well as manifestors and the last type reflectors, are often misunderstood and because of their energies and the way they operate. But honestly, I do believe a lot of projectors can fit into consulting and into that world if people understood the way that they operated, that they came in, they guided, they taught with their wisdom, and then stepped back without doing the work underneath that needed to be done. That's the perfect position for them. So they're in alignment. Again, when they're in alignment, they want to feel success. They want to feel recognized for their wisdom and their gifts. And their deconditioning process is a huge one, because usually they're looking externally to the world for what success means. And they have to learn what internal success is and helping people, help them transform what fuels them rather than, what I mean, drains them, is a huge process for them to unravel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they're out of alignment, it goes into resentment and bitterness. So people don't recognize their gifts if they don't, if they're not seen as that leader that can actually come forth, and people recognize that them for all their wisdom, they'll go into bitterness and resentment a lot of the time.
Mm. I think I've got a manifesting generator, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and a projector, I think, my two daughters. I can't remember. I'll have to check. Yeah,
Mm.
so interesting. And then the last one is the reflectors, is that right?
Yeah, and reflectors are so rare. Honestly, I met only my first 2 or 3 reflectors this year in person. Like I had one person come to me once for a reading that was a reflector in 5 years. So they're quite rare, and they're amazing if you can get to meet them. So the reflectors are really interesting because when you look at you'd have to see an energetic chart, but like they are so open. They have no,
Mm.
and it's a bit more complicated to explain definition in their body, because when we have energy that's defined in our body, that's our key strengths. They are all open, which means
Mm.
that they're constantly absorbing everybody else's energy in the environment.
Yeah.
They'll be very much influenced by the moon cycles, also what's happening out there, as well as everybody else. But as a reflector, if you hear the name, it's like a mirror. So when you're in the
Mm.
presence of a reflector, they don't need to say anything. It's almost like you see yourself by them just being there in their presence. It is the most powerful thing. They can just look at you and it's like you feel like they're looking into your soul. And I got to experience that for the first time through these three that I met this year. And it was so powerful. I was like, wow, I get it now. It's really
Yeah.
hard to explain until you've been in their presence. Um, they are like in the purpose of things, they're almost like checking the health of a community. Or so I like to see them as the community managers, I guess, but like if they can come in and just see how's everybody going, and they can actually reflect back what's going really well, what's not working really well. So
Mm.
if you can have one of them in a business, or if you know what I'm saying, or even within a friendship group, it's such a powerful thing to have there because they can reflect back exactly what is going on. So the thing with reflectors is they really need to protect their energy. Obviously, they need to be around people that they
Yeah.
trust. Um, they probably give everybody the benefit of the doubt for too long. They don't know how to exit things. So
Mm.
when they're in alignment, they're delighted in their surroundings. You know, they really love the surroundings, but it's like a delight and a surprise sort of feeling for them to feel in alignment with them. So, but when it's out of alignment, it's really disappointment because they see the best in everybody, but generally
Yeah.
the disappointment, so they can stay in things too long, which drains their energy. Um, so it's really about finding really that boundaries and safety of workplace, home life, all of those things that they really need. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. That was a really good explanation of each of them. I know that people will find value in it, and just hearing that, I think, is a good place to start for people to kind of then go and sit and think about it a little bit, and then go and grab, excuse me, go and grab the free chart from Becky's webpage. How do you blend your spiritual insights with practical tools in your work with your clients?
Oh, great question. It's interesting. So for me, I've constantly got downloads coming, and it's when I speak to somebody, I usually get the goosebumps. So I know I'm right on time for them as well, and right for what they want to hear. So it's constant
Mhm.
for me. It's and so a lot of it is unconsciously, even sometimes when I say things, it comes out as well as they need to hear it at that time. And afterwards I stop and go, whoa, where did that come from? So
Where did it come from? Yeah. Yeah.
like I couldn't have said it better if I tried. It just comes out. So a lot of the work that and with the tools, I guess, and you speak about this a lot too, it's that awareness blended in with that with your intuition.
Mm.
So the tools that I use within human design to get to people with awareness is key for me as well, because it's about I can usually see what's going on before they can, but I want them to get there themselves. Um,
Yeah.
intuitively, my gifts, I know I can touch across a lot of them, but it's just this general knowing that comes first.
Mm.
I get visions as well, like, but when I talk fast, I can see things as I'm downloading as well.
Yeah.
So I'm touching on different things at different times, but it's more important actually for my clients to understand their unique gifts and their intuitive gifts as well. So
Yes.
also through human design, what we call as our inner authority, and you'll see that on your chart, guys, when you download it. That is what they call in human design as your best way to make decisions in life. And it's a game changer when you understand what part of your body is that key strength. I call it your superpower that is giving you your way, rather than getting out of the like letting the monkey mind actually rule how you're actually making decisions.
Mm.
Wrong for all of us. So wrong. And we all do it as humans. So know that even once you get like into human design, you're still going to go back, but you'll awareness, you'll catch yourself falling out of that and how to
Yeah.
bring yourself back into alignment. It's just that superpower to make your decisions, that's your intuitive strength as well. So
Yeah.
it is an intuitive strength, and that's when people can start having the awareness themselves of how their body is reacting. And it's an experiment, it'll come different for everybody again. Like if I
Mm.
tell, like my partner's a manifesting generator, and when I was explaining to her how mine comes about, she's like, I don't get it. And then I knew for her how it happened for her. So that was my first lesson really in human design. It's going to be
Mm.
different for everybody, even if you have the same intuitive gift. So
Yeah.
working with that is really important. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So So for me, I believe that awareness is like the foundation. That's your really strongest spiritual sense that you have to develop.
Hmm.
And then following on that would be the voice of your soul, essentially. That's your intuition.
Hmm.
And then closely after intuition, that's when we start coming into the, let's call them, for the lack of a better word right now, the psychic gifts, the ways that you process the energy. That's when you say you have the knowing, that's
Hmm.
claircognizance, or clairvoyance, the vision, or clairaudience, the hearing. So that follows really after intuition, but everybody has the ability to develop awareness and
Hmm.
develop a relationship with their intuition.
Hmm.
And if you have those two, that's going to help you navigate through human design, through the inner work, through everything else that's out there. So it is really important to have that. And yes, you're right. We all process in different ways. We don't do it in the same way. That's why you can have two people exactly the same birthday and they will be very, very different. Or you'll have, identical twins and they'll be identical in ways, but they'll do things differently. So it's really important for us to focus on who we are.
Hmm.
It's not selfish. It's not a selfish thing. It is about, this is who I am. This is how I do it. This is how I grow. This is how I shine. And you've got to honor and respect yourself to tap into that because it's going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, beautiful. So, what is one simple step someone can take today to begin living more in alignment with their design?
Yeah, so I honestly would start with, like I said, when you download your chart, there's the one that I've given is the best one for you guys also to go out there. You can go there now. It's my www.mybodygraph.com is probably the best place to start. You'll see a box on the right when it comes up of the properties of what it is. That's level one. So that's your type, what we're talking about when you're in and out of alignment. So it'll look like signature, not self-theme. And it'll talk about your authority and your strategy. Stop there. That's all I'm going to say. Stop there. That's like a level one.
Yeah.
So at least I can point you somewhere. And the guide that I've got will kind of stop there as well. The thing with human design is that once we get onto it, it's so fascinating, and most people go down a rabbit hole and they just keep Googling and they, and it's just like you can't help yourself and you just want more and more information. But again, it's all about then stopping and integrating, experimenting in your life versus trying to find out everything about it. But we all do it. We can't help ourselves.
Yeah,
No,
we
uh,
do.
we do. And then so if you can get into what your strategy and your authority is as a step and start experimenting that into, because what that does is it gets you out of the mind, it gets you out of the ego trying to take over and gets what's your body should always be telling you what's going on. If you start looking into that, you will start to get awareness as well of what's correct for you and what's not. And it's an experimentation. Like I said, different people are going to feel it differently. But the first time I heard that information about my strategy and my authority, I was like, whoa, there's so many times in my life where I did this and
Mm.
it was so on point. And then I could see when my mind takes over and actually was like, oh, and because I was fighting it, and I could actually look through those times, and it's like, so what if I actually did this? But now I can sometimes my mind still takes over because I'm stubborn, Then I'll see, and I was like, damn it, I just knew I should have actually just listened to this. And that's an
Mm.
experiment and it takes time. But honestly, stop
Yeah.
there before you go down the rabbit hole. But it's interesting, even if you do want to go down the rabbit hole. But it's the
Yeah.
integrating and that's when your life changes.
That's it. You very well said. And I want to reiterate what you just said is that we can go down the rabbit hole so easily, right? So you can go down the rabbit hole, but what happens is it becomes really complicated and then your mind switches off and you forget about it. It's better to take the first couple of steps, like you said, and integrate it into your life and then take the next step and go a little bit deeper. So don't just go head first. Yeah. Start with the basics, work on that, integrate it into your life, and then you go ahead. Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Becky, I'm mindful of the time. So before we leave, please tell everybody where they can find you. I will have all the links in the show notes for people, but please share with them how they can work with you and where they can find you.
Yep. So I mean I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, but honestly, when you get the download, you will have access to my site. On the download itself, also I'm offering you guys a quick, if you're really interested, a 30-minute free insight into human design with me. So once you've got the download, it's got my email address and a place where you can book a free session with me.
Mhm.
And I'll go through, you get to ask me one question that you want to look through in your human design as well, whether it's business related, life purpose related, relationship related. And that's probably the best way to connect, actually. So we can actually speak one-on-one instead of you following my Instagram or my Facebook, and we can actually have a chat. So
Yeah, beautiful. All right. I'll make sure I have all the links available for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I am super excited about this episode, and I know you guys are going to definitely be able to use the value that Becky's given us today to integrate it into your life and kind of start working towards living a beautiful life of clarity, ease, and purpose. So, thank you, Becky, for joining me today.
thank you for having me. It was great fun.
You're very welcome. All right, guys, we're at the end of the episode, but before we leave, please go and grab the book, Spiritual AI, if you haven't done it. It will help you lay a beautiful foundation so that when you encounter things, coaches like Becky and modalities like human design, it will help you integrate it better once you have that spiritual foundation of awareness and intuition. Trust me, it will change your life. I don't say this very lightly. It will change your life. Make this the manual to live by. All right, make it a manual to live by. All right, guys, I will see you on the next episode. Again, Becky, thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you on other platforms.
Thank you. Bye.